All right, welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. Today we're going on a journey, a deep dive into the world of global teacher awards.
Oh, global teacher awards.
You might be thinking, awards, that sounds a bit dry.
Yeah.
But trust me on this one. This one is full of twists and turns.
Okay.
So it all begins with an email.
An email.
And an email that this Croatian educator, Miljenko Hajdarović, gets congratulating him on winning the, get this, the Global Teacher Award 2023.
Oh, wow. Impressive.
Right. Who wouldn't be excited about that?
Yeah, the Global Teacher Award. That's amazing.
But here's where things take a turn. The more he looked into it, the more questions he had.
Oh, about the award.
About the organizations behind these awards. It's a real detective story, a whole web of connections leading to, well, let's just say some surprising discoveries.
Well, I love a good detective story.
Okay.
So where do we start?
Okay, let's start with the award that caught Hajdarović's eye. The Global Teacher Award, presented by AKS Education Awards, based in India.
Okay, AKS Education Awards in India.
Got it. They say they recognize, exceptional teachers all over the world. And their website.
Yeah.
At first glance, it looks pretty impressive, pretty legit.
Uh-huh.
Hajdarović, he's a thorough guy, right?
Sounds like it.
He wanted to know more. So he starts by looking into AKS Worldwide PVT Ltd, the company itself.
The company behind the award? Makes sense. What did he find?
Well, their headquarters, despite this whole global image, turned out to be a pretty modest building in a suburb of New Delhi.
Huh. Interesting. So not quite the grand global headquarters you might expect.
Exactly. Kind of like finding out the wizard behind the curtain isn't so magical after all.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
And it gets even better.
Okay, lay it on me.
So he looks into the leadership team, the people listed on the AKS website. And let's just say he found some inconsistencies.
Inconsistencies like what?
Well, some profiles had stock photos.
Stock photos, really?
And others, their backgrounds didn't quite match up with their supposed expertise in education.
So, trying to project an image of credibility, but maybe not quite living up to it.
Red flag number 2.
I'm starting to see the detective story here.
And remember how I said this was a detective story?
Yeah.
Well, plot thickens. When you look at the application process for this award, it's a big chunk of it.
Yeah.
Self-evaluation.
Self-evaluation. Like, the teachers evaluate themselves?
Which already kind of raises an eyebrow. Right?
Yeah, how objective can that really be?
And then there's the recommendations. Anyone could submit one.
Anyone. Like, even their mom could write a recommendation.
Literally anyone. Friends, family, you name it.
Not exactly a rigorous vetting process for a global award, is it?
And here's the kicker. While they talk about, the honor and prestige of this award, they're very clear that winners have to pay their own way to the ceremony in New Delhi. All travel, accommodation, everything.
Oh, wow, that's a big ask.
Oh, and did I mention they conveniently have a partner travel agency?
The partner travel agency.
Called EdTrips Global, offering special packages for the awardees.
That's interesting. Convenient, maybe a little too convenient.
And guess what? There's barely any information out there about this EdTrips Global. Who runs it, what their deal is, their connection to AKS. It's all very hush-hush.
Okay, so we've got some potential conflicts of interest here. This is getting good. But wait, there's more.
Oh, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So Hajdarović's investigation, it uncovered another organization, the International Internship University, IIU for short.
IIU. All right, I'm taking notes.
And they're behind the Best Global Educator Award.
Another award. Okay, what's the catch with this one?
Well, you might think, another award, what's the big deal? But this is where it gets even more interesting.
You've got my attention. Tell me more.
IIU, they claim to be a virtual university, global reach, over 1,000 courses, partnerships with all these big-name institutions. They paint this picture of this massive educational network, connecting students and educators all over the world.
That sounds impressive.
Yeah.
Almost too good to be true,
And you know what? Hajdarović had that same thought. He started digging and, well, the reality of IIU didn't quite match up to the hype.
Uh-oh, what did you find?
Their Best Global Educator Award. Barely any online presence, except for a few mentions, mostly from Croatian educators on social media.
So, low-key online, but big claims about global impact. That seems a bit off.
Right. It's like they want to fly under the radar but still brag about their influence.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Then he looks into their accreditation claims.
Accreditation, yeah, that's important.
And things get even more shaky. Some of the accrediting organizations they list, they don't even exist. And some of their certificates look like they were, well, made up.
Seriously. Fabricated certificates.
So we've got another organization with a questionable approach to recognizing excellence in education. But guess what? There's still more.
Oh boy, this rabbit hole just keeps going deeper.
Remember, we're on a deep dive here. The next organization Hajdarović looked at was the Eco Training Center Sweden.
Eco Training Center Sweden. Okay.
And they're the ones giving out a global teacher award specifically for environmental educators.
Environmental educators, that's specific.
Now, this one's interesting because of the Sweden part.
Right. Yeah, Sweden has a good reputation when it comes to environmental stuff.
Exactly. You'd think an organization focusing on environmental education coming from Sweden would have a really solid online presence, you know? A website showcasing their projects, their impact.
Makes sense, yeah. So did they?
Their website, practically non-existent. Finding information about their work, their team, even where they're located in Sweden, nearly impossible.
So using the Sweden name for credibility, but maybe not actually all that Swedish.
It's like they're using the Sweden label to sound good, but don't actually have much to do with the country.
Oh, this is getting more and more intriguing.
And the information he did find about them, full of inconsistencies. Registration dates, names associated with the organization, it all kept changing, making it really hard to figure out who's actually behind it.
So we've got 3 organizations, all claiming to celebrate amazing teachers worldwide. But as we're seeing, their practices, well, they're raising more questions than answers.
It's like a big puzzle. And Hajdarović's investigation, it's helping us put the pieces together. But the big question is, what's the real motive behind these award schemes? Are they really about recognizing great teachers, or is there something else going on?
That's a good question. One that deserves a deeper look.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, going through all this with these awards, it really makes you think about all the pressure teachers face.
Yeah, definitely. It's like they're constantly expected to do more, be more, win awards even, all while, handling everything else they have to do.
Right. And these organizations, the ones we've been talking about, they seem to be taking advantage of that, like offering a shortcut to recognition, a way to stand out.
It's true. It's almost like their worth is judged by how many awards they have, which isn't really fair.
And that self-evaluation thing in the AKS application, it's almost like they're being asked to put a number on their own value.
Which is tough, because teaching is so complex. It doesn't fit neatly into boxes and checklists.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the money part. Having to pay to go to India for the ceremony, that's a lot for teachers who are already stretched thin.
It is. It makes you think, are these awards really about finding the best teachers globally, or just the ones who can afford it?
Right. Like, is recognition just a privilege now? And what about the students? How do they feel seeing their teachers focused on awards?
It can make them focus more on grades and less on actually learning and enjoying the process.
It's almost like we're accidentally rewarding appearances over substance. And that affects everyone, not just teachers.
And the trust. When these awards become questionable, it makes it harder to know what's real and what's not.
So how do we figure this out? How do we make sure good teachers get recognized without all this mess?
Well, first, awareness. We need to know about these things, these red flags, so we can make good choices.
Right. Do your research, ask questions, especially if something sounds too good to be true.
Yeah, we need more transparency. Award organizations need to be clear about their process, who they are, everything.
And everyone needs to be involved. Teachers, administrators, even students. We all have to speak up if something seems off.
Like that Croatian educator, Miljenko Hajdarović. He didn't just take things at face value, he investigated, and that made a difference.
He's a good example. It shows that anyone can make a difference if they're willing to dig a little deeper.
But going back to the IIU, that online university, you remember with 1,000 courses and global reach?
Yeah, the one claiming partnerships with all those famous universities?
Well, it turns out those partnerships, a lot of them were exaggerated, some even completely made up.
It's amazing how they managed to make it all look so real, using fancy titles and language, even fake certificates.
But their goal wasn't education. It was making money. They were selling the idea of prestige and recognition, taking advantage of people's hopes.
It's sad to think about the people who got degrees from them, thinking they achieved something meaningful when it might be worthless.
It's a good reminder that we can't always trust what we see. We have to be careful, check things out, especially when it comes to education.
Definitely. And speaking of things that seem too good to be true, remember the Eco Training Center? The one in Sweden.
Yeah, the name Sweden definitely made them sound more credible. We tend to associate Sweden with good environmental practices.
It's like using a brand name to make something seem better.
But like you said before, they didn't really seem to have much to do with Sweden. Most of their work seemed to be in India, and their website was basically empty.
It shows how important it is to look beyond the surface. Dig a little, find out what's really going on.
Exactly. And that's what's so impressive about Hajdarović's work. He didn't just accept things as they were presented. He looked closer and uncovered a pattern of deception that goes across multiple countries.
He really did. His dedication to the truth is inspiring. We need more people like him who are willing to question things and stand up for what's right, especially in education.
He really highlights the need for all of us to be involved in holding these organizations accountable and making sure that excellence in education is celebrated for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Now, as we wrap up our deep dive, let's move on to the bigger picture. How does all of this affect the teaching profession as a whole? What can we do to make sure real achievements are recognized?
That's what we'll explore in Part 3. We'll look at the long-term effects of these schemes and talk about potential solutions to protect the integrity of recognition in education. Stay tuned for those discussions.
Welcome back to the deep dive. As we've been, going through all this, it's really hit me that these awards, they're not just isolated cases. This could be changing the whole teaching profession.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying. Because these fake awards, they make people question the real ones too. Like, how can you tell what's genuine anymore?
It's like, you find a fake $20 bill. Suddenly you're checking all of them right. Makes you wonder how this affects the way teachers see their jobs, their motivation even.
It's true. Imagine you're a teacher, you're dedicated, you love your students, you're always trying to get better. But then you're bombarded with all these award offers.
Right, some real, some not. How do you even tell the difference?
Exactly. It makes you question everything, everyone's motives. It can be discouraging for teachers who really deserve recognition.
It can really take away from the joy of teaching, the connection with students, the excitement of seeing them learn.
And instead, it becomes all about chasing awards, even if it means, compromising what's best for the students.
It's almost like we're encouraging the wrong things, focusing on appearances instead of what really matters.
And this affects everyone, teachers, students, the whole education system.
So what can we do? How do we fix this? How do we make sure the recognition is real, that it means something?
Well, we need to know about these things.
Yeah.
We need to be able to spot those red flags, make informed choices.
Right. Be critical, ask questions, don't just believe everything you see, especially if it sounds, too good to be true.
And it can't just be us. It needs to be a system-wide thing. Award organizations need to be more transparent, clear criteria, thorough checks, open about how they work.
We need everyone involved, teachers, administrators, policymakers, students. We all need to speak up if something seems wrong.
Like that educator from Croatia, Hajdarović. He did his research, he investigated, and that made a difference.
He showed that one person can make a difference. It's about asking questions, digging deeper, not being afraid to challenge those in power.
And recognizing that real recognition doesn't come from a bought award or a fake certificate. It comes from the impact you have, the contributions you make.
That's a great point. It's about finding fulfillment in the work itself, not in some external validation.
And creating a culture where we value those everyday heroes, the teachers who go above and beyond, not for the awards, but because they care.
I think that's a perfect way to wrap up our deep dive today. We've gone through a lot. These global teacher awards, the questionable practices, how it affects the teaching profession. But most importantly, we've talked about the importance of critical thinking, ethical behavior, and working together to protect the meaning of recognition in education.
We hope this has been insightful, that you've learned something, and that you feel empowered to ask questions and challenge assumptions.
Thank you for joining us on the Deep Dive. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.